Hello everyone, I'm Famida Rahman. I'm a lecturer and program coordinator at BRAC University. And today's topic that we'll be talking about is called Tolerance for Differences, Teaching Strategies for Diversity and Equity. I've got two central questions for you all to discuss with. The first one is, what are the key challenges and concerns in acknowledging and promoting diversity? The second is, can community building aid to education for tolerance? Now, what is tolerance in education? Tolerance in education is about encouraging kindness and considerateness. Now, let's look at the elements that the tolerance and diversity has. So, there is race, there's gender identity, there is sexual preferences, there is economic and social class backgrounds, there is mentally or physically impaired, and the list goes on. Okay? Now, theoretically speaking, I'll take the example of what Rousseau said. According to him, the typical idea of explaining or of teaching a child, which is the adult notion or the concept of adult, is not accepted. That limits the brain of a children and doesn't allow the child to explore or to gather more ideas and to explore what's in their surroundings. Now, there's this book that he wrote, which is called The Emily or the Education, which has got which is divided into 5 groups, 5 books, and the chapter that I will be talking about is called The Fox and the Crow. I really like this chapter because this chapter shows that when a child is not confined or grounded with principles of what is right or what is wrong, they can actually think in a very diverse, in a very broader way, which gives us to see how a child thought can process. So allowing a child to do this, it gives them, like in all the fables, what they does is they think about themselves as a character of the book itself, and they form these characters into pictures, into videos, into emotions, and they like acting. So what this does, it not only allows children to discover his own knowledge, to discover the ideas of how characters can evolve, but also it gives us as an educator to see how powerful a child brain could be, right? So now, why is being different okay? Being different is okay because that's what we're accepting. Being different doesn't mean you're wrong. Being different means you think a bit differently than the whole common people or the whole community that we all live within, right? What are the key challenges? The key challenges are the ascriptive traits of students, the sense of belonging, teachers making flawed assumptions of students' capabilities, and helping students to think diversely. So why are these key challenges? The ascriptive trait of students is a key challenge because every child is born with different kind of qualities and capabilities. So what capabilities or qualities or traits they're ascribed with is, of course, very interesting to explore, and as soon as we explore, we will find that each of them varies differently from the other one. So it's a key challenge to, when in a classroom, for example, if you have a class of 25 different students, and in a classroom where there is where these all 25 different minds are working, all the ascriptive traits are actually coming up. So it's a key challenge to bring these traits into one cohort and explaining how each one of them is actually right and nothing is wrong, but different. Now, sense of belonging. What happens is, when a person is different from the other, and if that different person is a minority, the sense of belonging becomes a question. He or she might feel that they do not belong to that group. However, this is not the right feeling for us to ensure. However, this is not the right feeling that we should be promoting. The one thing that we should always keep in mind is the sense of belonging is very important. Also, it's important for tolerance and for the mental health, the growing mental health of a child as well. So every child needs to have this sense of belonging so that they can have a diverse educational experience. Now, teachers making flawed assumptions of students. What happens is, when the sense of belonging or the ascriptive traits are in question, we as educators or teachers can sometimes make mistake and think that the students is not capable enough of coping in the class, and it's a very generic stereotypical thought that goes around, which again is not always accepted. So when a person is different, when a child is different, they might need different ways of being treated or different forms of educational experiences so that they can grow. So as educators, we always need to keep this in mind, that these flaws should not be made by us. Helping students to think diversely. This is a very important step especially for educators who are educating children, like at school levels. When we allow children to think diversely, by the time they grow, what happens is they have a very diverse mind, and they're not sticking to what the book has taught them. And this is exactly what Rousseau tries to explain, that we should take this book notion or the book theory or book teaching away from the child and allow the child to grow by thinking diversely. So by the time when a student is expert or used to in thinking diversely, they would have more worldly knowledge, they would have more soft skills rather than just sticking to the book, which allows them to relate every theory that's given by all the famous theorists in the world with what is happening today, how justifiable these are, and whether and the ways and the possible solutions that could actually change that any wrongdoings or any things that are not justified properly in this world. So this will actually help them to give possible solutions, and also the reasons why these solutions should be actively incorporated. Okay. Now, you also need to understand that the concept of tolerance is controversial, but the practice of tolerance is not controversial at all. The concept is controversial when it comes to accepting diversity, because sometimes accepting diversity also means accepting ideas or concepts that might not be generally or that might not be feasible. Now, if we specially contradict it with religious concepts. Now, finally, let's come to the community building concept. Now, how can community building, like going back to the central question, can community building aid to education for tolerance? And I would say that yes, it can, because from a community building, what we do is the students can maintain a very positive relationship, and there is no right or wrong answers, and there is of course sense of responsibilities. A community building will always give them the sense of responsibility that they are responsible for whatever is affecting others. Now, for example, if in a community a task is given and it has to be done in a team, and one of the students fail to do so, or one of the students is not capable enough of doing so because of any kind of reasons, could be he or she is not understanding the concept enough, he or she might feel ill, or it could be anything. So what happens is, at that time, when the entire community comes up to helping and then, filling what the other student is missing, the work actually comes great. And this is also a very great example of team building. So whenever a work is done in a community or in team building, it is always appreciated, and tolerance and diversity is always more practiced in all these groups. However, community building is also facing controversial issues when it comes to race and when it comes to sexual preferences. Now, race is a very divisive issue in our culture that fall into countries like the US, UK, or Europe. And you see, if you look at the United States, as it is stated in the article, The Race in Education, which I've already given to you all, the students that graduate from elementary or high school, almost more than half of them are actually taught by white teachers. It also shows that the intellectual level of a black student is often missed out by the teachers of any elementary, secondary, or high school levels, which is again a very big example how tolerance is not practiced. And this is a very big example, a reason why tolerance should be practiced, so that race in education should be minimized. Because when race in education is minimized, race in workplace is also minimized, because that's the mentality we carry forward when we go into our workplace. Now, the second comes is the sexual preferences. The sexual preference is also, again, not about only accepting whether your friend or your acquaintances are gay, lesbian or straight. It is also about thinking which LGBTQ plus acronym we all fit into. It is about accepting that we could be different, our sexual preferences could be different, but we do respect each other's differences, and that's how we work and we deal with. So this is a total concept of tolerance and diversity, and trust me when I say this, that race and education are not only the two concepts that comes. There are economic, like I said before, there are economic and social background. There are class differences in the same education or in the same workplace. When people from two different classes are coming, we sometimes tend to behave in a different manner, which is also a very bad example of not tolerating. And then this should also be a practice that should be not accepted as well. There are times when physically impaired people are treated or are mocked as well, which is also another practice that should not be carried forward. So these are all the reasons why tolerance and diversity is important, because end of the day, it makes us a better person. It gives the whole community a better sense of how to treat people. It makes the community better, and when a whole community is working better, is working towards building a better life for the youth, the economy as a whole is also being advantaged. And so that's it from my end, talking about tolerance and diversity. Again, like I said in my humanities and social justice lecture, it's a very small part that we are talking, because my right to talk more is taken away as well, and it has been confined to just 20 minutes. So thank you all for listening, and I really hope you have liked the video. Thank you.